So it's 5 o'clock. At this point, I'll call to order the monthly meeting of the Hannaford Regional Technical School District for Wednesday, November 8th, 2017. We'll start off with the introduction of board members. Lorraine, would you like to lead?
Sure. Hi, Lorraine Morris, representative from the Addison School District.
I'm Gibson Smith, the business manager for Hannaford Pearson.
Glenn Schmidt, adult education, cooperative education, in the North Campus building.
Nick Colston, representing ACSD.
Christina Macklin, representing Addison Northwest School District.
Linda Barrett, clerk.
Dana Peterson, superintendent.
Jason LaRock, Workforce Investment Board.
Mark Parent, Workforce Investment Board.
Missy Backwest, Workforce Investment Board.
Michael Moran, Addison Northwest.
Michael Giorgio, Middlebury Large.
Kelly Mills, Assistant Director, Dean of Students.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So we have some changes to the agenda tonight. We need to add an action item and an executive session. So after policy 2.6, I'd like to add ratification of staff contract.
It's usually after executive session.
And then we'll move to that and we'll go into executive session to discuss that.
Okay.
And then, so there will be an executive session associated with that discussion. Does anyone else have any adjustments? Mike?
We just want to do an update from the outreach committee.
Yep. So let's put that
Informational.
Under informational. Let's do that right after the facilities. All right. Does anyone have anything else? If not, I'd take a motion to accept the agenda as revised.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. And the motion is carried. Next item would be visitor comments. Do you have anything you would like to throw in at this point? Okay. All right. Next would be correspondence. Dana, do we have any correspondence that you'd like to bring to the board's attention?
No correspondence at this time.
All right, moving right along. We'll hit that 6:50 without a problem. Consent agenda, which includes the meeting minutes from October 11th, 2017, and the monthly accounts payable for November. Do we have numbers for the accounts payable?
Not right now. I think Gretchen went down to go get them.
Okay.
I have them.
Do you have them? Oh, perfect. She's ready.
It's a dinner, I think.
Okay, so Mike McGrath, I believe, has seen these already. I'm just getting back into town. Mike saw these already, right, Gretchen?
Mike McLaughlin.
No,
Mike McGrath.
Send out
I'm
last
sorry,
time.
I did that.
I've only done it once.
So Mike saw them this afternoon, and I see some check marks in his approval here. So, Building and Equipment Reserve Fund, dated quick checks October 23rd, 2017, some vouchers on 11/8, which is today, $12,689.51. Under the general fund, today's date, $91,601.94. And under the revolving fund, today's date of $5,397.33.
Okay. Now that we have those numbers, would anyone like to remove any of those items from the consent agenda for further discussion? All right. Consent agenda is passed. Moving into our action agenda, we have a monitoring report for policy 2.6, which is asset protection. You should find in your packet that report. that tracks with our policy 2.6. I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent for questions. Do you want to?
Any questions?
I just have a question on number 2. It said
Yep.
allow unbounded personnel. Is that an accurate term, bounded, or is it bonded?
Bonded.
I think it's supposed to be bonded.
Okay. Because I was going to ask what
And it is corrected in Gibson's response there that all employees are bonded who have access, so.
And it is correct in the policy. So,
We'll try to take it out of whatever template we're using.
perfect. Or at least it's my copy of the policy. So,
One of the other things, that in terms of limiting liability, it's not in your report, but the Facilities Committee knows this. We are working with Visbit, our multi-line insurance provider, to also limit liability in terms of having both security checks and safety checks. So those are currently underway. Missy may say a little bit more under the facilities report. But those are another way that we are ensuring that no liability will be brought to the board.
any additional questions? So everyone has a copy of that and the policy. The Budget and Policy Committee will be taking up this policy next Wednesday at a regularly scheduled meeting, as we discussed. We'll be looking at these policies after they're reported out on to see if there's any questions on interpretation or anything we need to clarify. So if something comes up between now and then, feel free to show up to that. So, take a motion to accept the monitoring report for 2.6 asset protection.
So moved.
It's been moved. It's been seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Oh, no.
The motion is carried.
Sorry, I got
Get carried
away.
Next item on our agenda would be to ratify the staff contract. We'll need an executive session for that. We have a motion to go in.
I move to go into executive session, purposes of discussion of negotiation.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
It's been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we're gonna go into executive session. I do not anticipate this will be a long executive session. What do you?
Mark?
Move my stuff and I'm all discombobbled. All right. So we're out of executive session. Next item of business would be to ratify the staff contract. Do we have?
I
a
move
motion?
that we ratify the most recently negotiated staff contract, 2-year contract.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved, it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, the motion is carried. That moves us to our informational agenda. In your packet, you should see a copy. Actually, not in your packet.
It was
You
emailed.
you were emailed a copy of the preliminary budget that Dana and the staff have been working on. This is a different configuration than we've seen in the past. Once again, first of all, this is preliminary. We're not asking anyone we're not going to be asking the board to take action on this. There's still stuff that Dana's working on, I presume. This will come to the board in December for ratification before it gets published to go to the voters for approval. So this is a different configuration. Dana is taking this from what used to be, I believe, an 8-page document down to 4 pages. And he did it by not just changing the size of the font, but by consolidating stuff. The nice thing about this is salaries are all in one place. We know what our, health insurance is all in one place. All the items are in one place as far as salaries and benefits go. So it's easy to, in the past, we've had employees and salaries that were spread over multiple line items, so one employee could be in 3 to 4 different salary fields, so. That being said, I'm gonna turn it over to Dana. Dana will present it to you and field any questions.
So let me just repeat what I put in writing when I sent out the report. There are a couple of things. First, up at the top of your sheet, you have the totals, rather than putting them at the bottom where I have to flip to go to the end to find out what the bottom line is. I made it the top line, and so you can see up there. First column compares 16-17 actuals. Second column is the currently adopted budget, and the third column is the proposed or projected budget for FY19. If you look at the top, the total change is $6,347, which is 0.18%, so less than 0.2% change in the budget for next year. Some of the highlights that I mentioned also were that total salaries were about $92,000 in terms of change. The total on insurance for life insurance, excuse me, yes, health insurance and what other insurance did I pick? Excuse me? Disability, yep, was $60,000, 55 on health and 5 on disability. And then actually, I also forgot Social Security on the staff salaries, because that's a factor of that. So 92 there, and then we had approximately 80,000 in savings on the insurance side, including some interest and reduction in debt service was $7,500 approximately. So that contributed significantly to helping reduce costs. Also, the facilities committee experienced about $20,000 in savings as a result of conversion to the new natural gas and a few other areas that were identified. So those are basically the highlights that I have. As you can see on page 1, you have primarily salaries, insurance, and Social Security, and additional insurance is covered on page 2, so that takes up half of your report. After that, you have the programs that follow, and you have subtotal there, slight reduction of about $700. And then you have what I termed the departments. Those are other than the programs, and the total savings there was approximately $17,000. Yes, Nick?
So Dana, in terms of assumptions,
Yes.
this assumes we're going to have the same programs, the same people, the same plant. Everything is going to stay the same as this year, right?
There are no, at this point in time, I am not prepared to make any recommendations for changing programming or any type of physical plant. So, yes, that would be to maintain the programs that we currently have and staffing levels.
It doesn't matter what the enrollment numbers are either. I mean, whatever the enrollments are, we stay with the...
Well, I can answer that theoretically now. We do projections, and right now, we're in the process of looking at our 6-semester average. The 6-semester average is down slightly. I'll know better at next month's meeting when we do the revenue side. This is just on the expense side. So this report just covers the expense side of the budget.
Okay. So we're going to see projected enrollment numbers.
Yes, that's for
in the next
the next meeting. Right, because that's on the agenda for budget and policy to review with them, and then you will have all of those ahead of time to be able to digest. So this report, which came out a little late just because of our timeliness and trying to make sure that we got everybody placed for healthcare, which was coinciding with this, You should have the final document for the expense side, along with the projected enrollments and the revenue side, at least best we can guess, probably a week before the meeting in December, so that you can actually review that and ask any questions.
Yeah, we'll also have our announced tuition and our warning for the annual meeting to approve at that meeting, so that we can get all that published.
Right.
So our enrollments are not as predictable as they are in a school system where you know how many students you have in your current 6th grade class going into a 7th grade class, for example, or if you have tuition students that come in, how many students you think would be coming from any particular school. There are ways to get at that.
Right.
Until we do the actual signups and registrations, which don't happen until February, March timeframe, we won't know exactly who we have in those programs. But we are encouraged by the preliminary data that we had in terms of the numbers of students that we have this year compared to what we were projecting.
Good.
So, but I'll have more specifics for you next time, Nick.
Good.
Excellent. Any additional questions for Dana? All right. Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome.
Next item would be the facilities report. So there should be a copy of that in the board packet that you received. Myself reorganized here. So these are the meeting minutes from October 16th, 2017. Missy, would you like to speak to anything in particular here, or do you just want to field questions?
Maybe both. I'll offer that we met again on this past Monday, November 6th. So there's some updates to these items, starting with number 1. Just that we're still waiting for a second proposal on that. And we need the ballards installed before Vermont Gas will turn the gas on.
Actually, I have an update, a more recent update.
Okay.
We did get a second proposal, and we are going with a bid at about 2,000. So that is, I got that just this morning from John. So.
Perfect. So once those are installed, we can turn on the natural gas, but we're okay for heating season because we have the bill. And then, just going down through the items. The other one for new business under safety audit. Let's see.
They came on the 31st Halloween to
Yes.
do a 6-hour.
Thank you.
Audit, yep.
And my impression of that was that they were very thorough and very knowledgeable of what they were looking at. Sometimes when you have safety audits, the inspectors are very focused on a few specific things, but they seem to be well-rounded, which was nice to see. They gave credit where credit was due. There were a lot of good things that they saw. And then there were some items specifically in the theater shop area that needed to be fixed. Those were identified and turned around quickly.
And corrected, right?
And corrected.
Within 24 hours, yep.
So those were good, and we're awaiting their PowerPoint presentation, so we have the full scope of what they saw.
And they will have commendations and recommendations for us.
Excellent.
But anything that needed attention, John got an immediate list, and we went through those and made sure that they were all addressed.
Did we get the registration for the in-ground fuel tank? I see that
Yes,
well, I see that they applied, we got it, so.
yes, yep, so the update on that is,
We're all set.
oh, the in-ground fuel tank, hang on. Yes,
And they just had to register with the state.
yes,
I don't think you didn't have to test it or anything.
no, no,
John did some background work to go back with the state and their records to when it was originally installed, confirmed that it wasn't on file.
Okay, well, I was just curious, so
I
that,
believe that that's been taken care of. We also have registered on the stormwater permit waiver. We had to register with the local land office in terms of the compliance with the Agency of Natural Resources for stormwater discharge, and that's been taken care of. We've covered that as well, so.
And what are ballards? What are-
They're the posts that usually you see on either side of the garage doors, and when people are backing up, they don't take out the building. In this case, so they don't.
It's a security measure so that
All right. Yeah, I'm just curious.
we don't interfere with the gas connection, so.
Okay.
We don't want an explosion.
Yeah.
All right.
You were playing with your phone.
Are there other questions?
All right, thank you very much, Missy. Next item is the outreach committee meeting minutes. We held our first meeting on November 1st. Mike Giorgio is chairing that committee, so I'm going to turn it over to Mike to talk a little bit about it and ask and field any questions.
So we met last week, and we sort of tried to wrap ourselves a little bit around what our mission was and what we're trying to do. And we definitely, tried to figure out some of our partners in the community, Chamber of Commerce, Addison County Economic Development, Regional Planning Commission, CCV, and obviously businesses. We're going to try to be a little more outreaching in terms of getting business people in the community to talk to us about what they feel the needs are from the Career Center. So next time we meet, which will be December 6th, I believe, we are going to have a panel that's going to have any faculty, staff, folks that want to come to, they're going to get a copy of what our mission is for that committee, and they're going to give an update of what they sort of feel like has been happening around that, things that they feel like might be done better. And then we're going to have business folks as well. If we get enough people, we're going to have a couple round tables and kind of share that information and then take that feedback and help that to address what we're going to do in moving forward. We realized that the February open house is probably a great time for us to piggyback onto what's happening at the Career Center already and really try to make that something that we as a board can take interaction with the community around that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that at the next meeting. We're going to have Kelly and I will probably have a conversation with what our plan would be around that. But again, we want to make sure that we're an asset to that open house, not taking away from anything that Kelly's doing. So again, that'll be kind of a work in progress. And then we're really looking at, what's going on with the budget and what can we do to be proactive to giving the community and the folks in the community that are our partners and our, sending schools and stuff like that, a good idea of what's coming with that and, how that's going to work. So it's kind of the beginning of where we are. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them. And I think that one of the things that I'm very hopeful that will happen is that through some of this outreach stuff that we're going to do, I think as board members, that it hopefully will mean that we can roll up our sleeves a little bit more and really help the Career Center in a way that's going to be beneficial across the board.
But I also met with the leadership team before this meeting, just to talk a little bit about what our goal with this is. This isn't a marketing effort. This is an outreach to solicit information from ownership, to use the policy reference terms, to help shape our ends and make sure that that we're not using our ends and creating our ends in a vacuum without getting input from the stakeholders, ownership. So our intent's not to be getting down into the marketing aspect of how programs are marketed, the website and all of that. It's more so it's strictly an outreach committee. There will be a little bit of commonality in the stuff we do. That will hopefully benefit both sides of the equation.
And did you say you came up with a mission statement, or it was gonna be finalized at the next?
Oh, well, I was just actually looking for that. What we're tasked with is written in the bylaws, and so that's what I would use as the, what we would ask people to review that and see what can be done to better make that happen. So, I mean, I would say that could be changed into a mission statement, but I think what's written is kind of and that's why I'm just listening this to find it.
Did you guys talk about doing outreach to families and students, or is it more, you're gearing more towards business?
No, I think so my goal was to figure out with the people that are sort of the direct, where students are going, the direct people that are influencing that, start with them. The next thing would be to talk to students and alumni, and then it would be to talk to sending schools. Just because from an understanding point of view, if we can understand where the staff thinks we are within this, and if we can understand where businesses think we are, and they can communicate about that, then as we're talking to the students and the alumni, we can kind of synthesize that together. And then once we synthesize that together, then I think if we go to the sending schools, we'll be better prepared to offer them some information about what we can and should be doing, or think we should be doing. And then they can also give us feedback. And then from there, I think that's when we can really roll up our hands. And again, I think we should be able to meet with the other the constituencies, with the students, and then we'd have the open house. People from the schools would be open to come to that, and then at the following meeting. So by March, we should really have a handle on the whole group of folks that need to be influenced with, and that's right around when the budget would need to be passed, right?
So, policy 4.7, board committee structure. Item number 1, ownership communication committee, which is what we're talking about. The product, to solicit input and recommendations from the owners to assist in the development of ends policies, is what our charge is.
Can you say that again?
Sorry. To solicit input and recommendations from the owners to assist in the development of ends policies.
On the owners, who are the owners?
Very open-ended.
Well, I think categorically, I think categorically that's what we were trying to establish that. And again, my thought was the process to go through that was what I just said. And again, if people have other thoughts about how to do that or what they want to do, go to the bid.
To answer your question, in general, the owners are the taxpayers of Madison County, as at large. So that includes parents, students. But it's not taxpayers, it's the residents of Madison County. Any other questions for Mike?
And again, if anybody else wants to join, I mean, it's not a closed committee, right? If people want to.
Well, that's a question I have, because I was told, shouldn't be on the advisory board, the advisory council, and the board of directors, because there's conflict of interest. Which we're still, well, I don't really know if it is or not. I can see their point in one aspect, but that's why I didn't know. Do you want board members at this meeting, or is this not a?
No, this is a board committee. We're starting off with, inviting teachers. Essentially, these are going to be forums, and these are the teachers are our stakeholders, and working with through Dana, how they see our ends. So it's not, we're not advising, we're not advising them on how they're going to do their marketing and their outreach. This is strictly to solicit information so that we can further our ends. The other piece of that is community outreach that we need to do, potentially around the budget. Now, I don't know that it's going to be that big of a deal, but if for some reason, which we're not, if Dana was coming forward with a 20% increase in our budget, that would be a completely different discussion about how as a board we were going to present that to the community. Once again, we're not. But you know, and, you know, with a 0.2% increase to our budget, depending on what our revenue side looks like, because you're right, Nick, you know, we can't just look at one side of that, we need both sides to really know where we're going. But our revenue side, or our expenditure side is gonna be up 0.2%. So it's not as big of a deal. The concern was if we weren't meeting, you know, things that were set forth by the governor, those recommendations, or if we were missing that mark by far, then there would have to be a different type of outreach in getting our mission out there, getting why our budget is where it is out to the general public, which would be more than just Dana showing up at, you know, 370 schools and doing a presentation. Once again, the intent, the intent is not to be in a role where we're advising staff, because that would be a clear violation of the concept of policy governance, if that makes sense.
Yep.
We can talk about it more. All right, any further questions? If not, next item is our superintendent's report. There should be a copy of that in your packet. So I'm gonna let Dana speak to that and field any questions.
Just want to highlight some of the successes that are on the first page, students, and it was also highlighted in Kelly's report as well. In terms of successful leadership and skills demonstrated at a variety of competitions starting back in May and continuing through the end of October. So we're very pleased about all of those students who have been so successful and the guidance that was provided by some of our teachers. So we're very proud of all of them. Our newsletter is being very successful, getting lots of hits on the sites where it's posted, both on Facebook and our website. Kate Olivier, who is our new literacy coach, is also spearheading that project. Hopefully we'll be getting some student input into the newsletter in the future, so you might be able to hear directly from the students about what's happening. And you have a link there. It is an active link if you got it electronically, so you can actually take a look at it. And there are archives, so you can actually check back on previous issues. The budget development, I think I've already covered that. If you have any questions about that, I put in the report, feel free to do so. And then I provided a link in the digital version to a Citrus College video on the value of career and technical education. And as I highlighted in there, 57% of all jobs fall into the category of having future jobs being projected to require skill training. So in comparison to 40, 50 years ago, where skill training was only about 13% is increased dramatically. And where unskilled jobs represented almost 60% of the workforce, if not more. So that is down to approximately 10%. So skilled workforce needs are very important. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of trying to fill that. Of course, we've got lots of planning and research to do in terms of what other needs are in our community. And then mentions that are in this report. So, do you have any further questions? I have.
I think the reserve fund for the HRA is a great idea. Is that something you need our input on, or are you just going to go ahead and set up a reserve fund for that?
No, that will require action, but that will be, I think, in the articles that we're looking to bring to the board.
Yeah, I think I last week on that, so.
Yeah. No, this was just what we were thinking.
Just preliminary.
Yep, and there's no action that's required tonight. I brought that up with budget and policy 2 weeks ago, and the idea was that put it in here so that we were blindsided by that creation, and have an opportunity to consider that thoughtfully at the next board meeting in December. So it seems to be that that's most reasonable way to address the liability that, exposure that avoided that. And then we take that to the taxpayers as one of our articles. But then they'd have to take, it would be a two-step process. They'd have to vote to create the fund and then make that transfer from the FY 17 reserve, or surplus, which we don't have a confirmed figure on yet. We're still waiting for the auditor's report, which, by the way, if I may have one more moment, we think that there may be a report at the next board meeting, the December board meeting, with respect to the approved audit. Is that?
We'll solidify that communication.
Okay. Ron did say to us that he was hoping to get a report before the first of the year to us and make a presentation at the board meeting. So hopefully that will be something that we can also put on next month's agenda.
Excellent. Additional questions? Hearing none. Next on our agenda is the Dean of Students report. Copy of that in your packet. Turn it over to Ms. Mills for presentation and questions.
Okay, so Dana highlighted, probably in better detail than I did, how our FFA teams did at the land judging and national convention career development events. Also, our proficiency committee has been meeting weekly, and we did a read-through on our entrance proficiencies, which is a list of standards that we expect students to have when they enter. So we did 2 levels. We did 11 and 12, and then 9 and 10. And we invited all of our sending schools and people from various sections of the sending schools, and we only had 2 participants. So Dana had a great suggestion. He said, let's take the show on the road. So we had someone from Middlebury come down, and she met with us. She's one of the IB team planning professionals at Middlebury High School, so we were able to bounce some ideas off of her. She gave us some good feedback. Next Wednesday, we're headed up to Mount Aid. We will be meeting with 2 individuals from Mount Aid. And then the next thing on our agenda is going to be to go to the middle schools, because they will also be, an important aspect of, recommending 8th graders as they're coming into 9th grade. So we're trying to become part of the grand plan for all the kids. So the earlier those kids are planning, the better chance they have of understanding what's going on here. So we're really excited about that. We had Barb Wagner, who everyone, or most everyone in this county knows, in terms of being point on for emergency planning, emergency management. She came in and did a heart saver, first aid, CPR, and AED training for us on the 19th of October. We've met with Kendra Rickerby 3 times now in terms of coming together with some common rubrics that everyone can use, templates in the center, so every teacher will be able to have a toolbox full of rubrics. And then we also had parent-teacher conferences the other day. I am going to tell you that I think someone asked, Nick, it was you, I think last year, that asked what the percentage turnout of parents to students was last year. It was 15%. We're 3% this time. 3%, yes. So I was a little disappointed to see that.
I don't know if we had the discussion here, but one of the things that we figured out was that the same day is at least 2 of the schools where those are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not advantageous to the Career Center, I don't think.
Yeah, that was brought up by the central office team meeting. We have a meeting every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, where we bring everybody who's involved in the Career Center at some type of admin or office level. And it was Denise who mentioned that at the same time we were concurrent parent-teacher conferences. So she's going to look into that and make sure that we don't have that same situation arise in the spring. And I think I reported to you because it was that day when the outreach committee met. It was one of those things that was certainly an obstacle. So we're going to try to figure out how to avoid that happening in the future.
Can they? Because don't they have that day off as an in-service day? I mean, can you actually, because you all have the same schedule.
We do ours in the evening.
Oh, okay.
So
The other schools do too, right?
Yeah,
That
because
element
They do
they
every-
all do the same day, so it'd be kind of hard to switch it.
Well, that's
without
not-
changing the in-service date.
That's not, I mean, the Middlebury does it over 2 days, do it Thursday night and Friday. So, I don't.
We could change the evening so that it's not the same time. And we're flexible in terms of how we use the non-student days. So we can avoid, I think we can avoid that, to answer your question.
Okay.
I'm confident that we can come up with a solution that would help improve. Because Nick's right, 15% is low, 3% is abysmal.
Has that been the case though, where the conferences have always been the same as the other schools?
I think it has been. I
For the most
think
part.
Perhaps the bigger difference is that there's usually a quarterly report that goes out around 10 days at their conferences. And for some reason having to do with their school calendar, the quarterly report was a day or two ahead of conferences. And we usually put a letter reminding parents of the conference and the quarterly report, and that wasn't this year, so.
Couldn't happen in time.
That may be more of a factor than
Okay.
the
Did you highlight that in the newsletter beforehand? 'Cause we can do
Yes.
that too.
Yes.
It
Good,
did.
good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Kelly, I had a question on the proficiency-based
Sure.
assessment.
Sure.
You said that Ms. Wrigley Castleman was working with the folks in the center.
Yep.
Is this a proficiency-based assessment that's going to be used throughout all the 3 sending schools as well?
just
Or
here.
just here?
Yeah.
So how does our proficiencies get accepted or used in the sending schools?
We're working on that.
Okay, do you do that through her, or is that something else?
She's basically helping us build those rubrics or grading, they're actually scales to assess our students based on the standards that we have set as a center, number one, or even right down to the skills that are being taught in the classroom. So, so that's what she's doing, and then once we get those things situated, the outset will be crosswalking what our anchor or school-wide standards are compared to the other 3 schools.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Mark?
Yep, it does. Because, I mean, I know one of the things that I've been hearing is that proficiencies are kind of all over the place depending upon who's developing them and who they're working with.
Yes, it's
And,
true.
And, you know, we have 3 sending schools and we have 1 that's going to IB.
Right.
And I can't imagine our instructors creating 3 sets of assessments or proficiencies
No.
to match. So I'd be real curious to see how we're doing with that.
We made a decision last year to be in the driver's seat because it seems like the 3 different Sunday schools, and we're thankful that's all we have. I mean, Essex has got, what, 12 or 15, you know, Stafford has got almost as many as that. We're gonna be in the driver's seat, and this is what we're going to do, and we also understand that it's a living document. It's something that's going to be fluid, so we're prepared to have it ebb and flow and adjust it as necessary to make sure we're meeting the needs of, you know, students in our community and also the workforce in our community. So we just don't feel like we can sit around and wait until everybody figures out what to do. So that's how we're doing it. You know, and the other piece too is we've had a lot of discussions about what this is going to look like, and the way we look at it is if, and we were under the false impression that personalized learning plans were actively being used and adjusted and modified for students in the high schools, and they're not. Because we were like, well, why can't you have the students follow the personalized learning plans and those adults who are responsible for guiding the students? And they were like, well, what do you mean? We're not really doing that. It's like, okay, well, I'm glad we had this conversation because we thought you were, and we thought that's what the state told you had to be doing. So anyway, that was one of the sending schools. So anyway, the other piece was that we'd like to consider a shopping experience in a way. So the students are like, okay, I have a menu to look at in terms of what standards I need to graduate with. And I want to go down this road in terms of what I want to do after I graduate from high school. Then they can pick and choose and say, well, maybe I do this at the Career Center. Maybe I can do that. I can do that. Wow, I can do that. You know, and it's all these different things. It's like a menu that they can shop and choose. And so we can be really transparent about what we're going to offer. And that's going to give students the opportunity to be able, with their parents and of course the other adults that they're had as mentors in their lives, to be able to help them choose the best course of action.
Great, thank you.
Yep. And then finally, everyone got an invitation. We're having our student award or recognition breakfast next Wednesday and Thursday. So if you can check your calendars and see if you are available on one day or the other, and let me know. We had Nick came last year and a couple of the other board members. So it's nice because it's a great opportunity to recognize students and to have their parents come in the building and really celebrate these students. So it's a really nice, quick 35 minutes. I try to run it just
And the
as
food is
quick
delicious.
and, what's that, Nick?
The breakfast was delicious.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, our culinary arts students prepared the breakfast. It's a nice buffet and great offering, and it's just a nice opportunity to recognize our students. I'd be happy to see everyone come. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, thank you very much, Kelly. Next on our agenda is the adult tech ed report. I trying to start moving stuff around in front of me. I'm going to turn it over to Len. There's a copy of that report in your packet. And just so you know, I've had at least 2 kids come up to me, 2 students come up to me and say, see, they're running that CDL program. How old do I need to be? They're like, not yet.
Yeah.
So,
Gotta be
in a couple of years, there's a few that'd be interested in that.
Gotta be 18. The CDL students tested last week. One passed his permit exam and one did not. He tested yesterday. I was hoping I could let you know how he did, but I don't know yet. Our LNA students are testing on December 9th. Our PCA class, 3 of the 6 are fairly committed to coming back in the spring with the same instructor for their LNA course. I think that instructor has been a great match for the students in the program. Very excited that she's teaching both those classes, kind of reeling them in. The back side of the adult ed report is a flyer that is part of the partnership that adult ed is working with Vermont Adult Learning and United Way of Addison County to get these often mentioned 500 16 to 25-year-olds in Addison County who are not in school and not working, re-engaged with education in the workplace. That was essentially the target of our summer program, our summer technical program last year. I think I mentioned in the adult ed report that 8 out of 12 who completed that program, 3 or 4 of them, it took a while to kind of see the results and for those things to sink in, but I feel like 3 out of 4 of them have kind of hit it out of the park. 3 of them are working part-time and pursuing their education, not one or the other. They're doing both at the same time. And so we're looking at how can we expand that program to be more year-round, not just a summer program, and to really focus on that long-term re-engaging with the workforce.
Are you going to invite them to this event?
This is entirely about inviting them to that event. I'm not going to this. This is going to be facilitated by the United Way and be almost entirely just youth. We don't want the human service providers in the room to outnumber the kids. So that's entirely what this is about. And
No, but I meant those 3 specific kids. So they
oh,
can kind of
I got you. That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Excellent. Any questions for Len?
I don't actually have a question for Len, but I think it was brought to my attention, we have some students in the past that have graduated, they're not considered completers, but they actually completed 2 years, but they completed different courses. Is there a way to change that? Because say they take medical professions and then they take Jake's class or something like that. I think one student did and was fairly successful, but he's not considered a completer here at Hannaford Career Center because his 2 years weren't consecutive, you know, like auto 1 and auto 2 or diesel 1, diesel 1. Is there a way to change that? If they're here for 2 years, shouldn't they be considered a completer either way?
I think it's all about the program. It's about completing the program, it's not about completing the time in the building.
And those aren't our standards, those are national.
So there's not really, there's no way to actually.
One of the things to answer, I think part of your question is recognition for the work that has been done. And micro-credentialing might allow us to do that, we'll be exploring that a little bit more. But at this point in time, there's no a set standard that we can follow to have that.
Because as I'm watching this, I mean, there's a lot of professions that these mixed match items, whether you take welding and auto, or you take medical professions in Jake's class, or what you take, there's a lot of stuff that's integrated in. You know, I've had some welders work for me that are really good, and I really appreciate that, but, you know, these kids should be recognized as completers or something, or they should have some certificate to say, hey, I did this and I did that. I don't know, it just seems weird that they're not considered completers.
That's one of the topics that we're working on, because it seems like the only recognition, and this is what I've heard from people out in the community, and even some of the folks in the building, that the only people who get recognition are those who actually sat through the
Yes.
2 years.
It's an AOE seat time.
Right.
Okay.
Requirement.
Yeah.
That's why it's not our,
Right.
those aren't within our, that's not within our purview to be able to change per se. However, if we explore the micro-credentialing opportunities, then there could be some recognition and certificate for what is completed with respect to a specific set of criteria.
Okay.
But that doesn't exist at the moment.
Lynn, why don't you give us the breakdown? You said there were a total of 18 students, just where the numbers are.
Sure. We have 6 in LNA, 4 in CDL, and 6 in PCA.
He's running that CDO with only 2 in it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have to say thank you to him, huh? Are we supposed to have 5?
Supposed to have 6.
6?
Yeah.
See you short last time,
We
too.
thought we had 3 when class started. But,
That's too bad. But
Another question. Do you have an advisory board?
I have,
For adult?
I've had a couple of different versions of the advisory board. When I started out, I had kind of a general business and community advisory board. What I've done recently is have more targeted advisory boards. I have an advisory board for LNA. I partner with the diesel program for an advisory for CDL, and have this fall worked with doing online polling for kind of an advisory around building trades. So I don't have a set advisory that meets twice a year to talk about the whole adult ed. When I was doing that, I found that when people would come to the table with one specific interest.
Sure.
It's hard for me to get somebody out of Porter Medical to come talk about adult ed in general.
excellent question.
Well, I think there's room for that. I think doing some advisory work with UVM Medical, and we've now, it's going to start in Porter. So I'm going to have a conversation with, the LNA program, because I think there's obviously a networking piece, and just talking with a lot of the, for instance, the ICU nurses, they love LNAs, and unfortunately they don't stay there. They go on, if they really enjoy that profession, they go on. But the shortage of LNAs is just like amazing. It's like the numbers need to be there, but as an advisor piece, I know they would come.
Yeah.
I think it's just finding the right people over there that would help that. And same with business people, with the CDL. I can't believe there's only 2 people with all the different trucking, companies around it, that just blows me away. Phoenix Feet in my neighborhood is just like,
what's the-
non-stop, 24 hours a day.
Yeah, what's the obstacle in that for CDLs?
I'm sorry?
What's the obstacle of getting one?
Being 18, I think.
Well,
18?
well, I mean, have you?
I think part of it may be that I'm an educator, not a marketer, and I don't know, I'm not really aware of what outreach I've done has been effective and what hasn't been. We try and get information about how did you hear about us when we register applicants, but for instance, that's not helpful if an applicant blows out on the first day, or if we don't get enough, we don't know, what we were trying to, what different we should try. I do feel like we've relied very heavily on print newspaper ads, and that may just have run its course or something and not be effective at reaching more people. There are, I think, we're looking at a very low unemployment rate, so that's a piece of the puzzle. And with both CDL and LNA, there are pretty significant barriers around criminal background checks and drug and alcohol testing and age requirements that all kind of factor into that.
I would hope during this program, they would let this age group know that, because I have that similar conversation with visitors in my house. My husband's in the transportation business, but with his ship, and the understanding of what drug testing does and why, and all of the pieces that follow with the transportation relating to CDL, and it's constant, it's constant. And for them to understand that at that age, of, your actions will proceed, later on if you're not aware of that. I think, that's room there. But I know, in fact, 2 alumni that I can name off the top of my head from this building that are both doing marketing. They're both, one works for April Cornell, and the other person just got a job with CCV, and that's what they're doing. They're doing digital, social media marketing. That's what they do. And they're young, and they know what's out there, they know who to touch. So, like I said, the alumni is there as an advisor, and I think it behooves us to reach out to people like that. They love the school, and I think they'd like to help. So I might try and do that for you.
Excellent. Any other questions for Glenn? Hearing none. Last item, and we're ahead of schedule, so unless we really blow this last one, we'll be out of here by 6:50, no problem. So, last item on our agenda for tonight is policy 4.1, governing style. Do we have a volunteer to speak to that? Mike?
Well, it's going to take a while.
You got 40 minutes, buddy. You got 40 minutes.
We're ahead of schedule. I think we had a great productive meeting. You took your turn. And we're going to be out of here early. Awesome.
Thank you very much. Take a motion to adjourn at this point.
So
Moved. Seconded.
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is carried. Meeting adjourned.